The following is a presentation of the Force Center podcast feed.
From the center of the galaxy, this is the Force Center podcast feed. I'm Ken Knapsack for another edition, an ongoing series, and it's still ongoing, Star Wars Ranked, episode 155, according to my records that are sometimes inaccurate to about 2%, but I think this number counts. I'm Ken Knapsack, as I said, and my guest is Joseph Scrimshaw.
Oh, I'm happy to be here. I love hearing about your records. And since we are talking about, spoiler, The Last Jedi, I imagine your gloved hand like Luke Skywalker with the Jedi books, just gracefully touching. These are the archives. These are I keep the number of the podcasts.
You know, we had... I've got to write down the person's name. There was a great Force Center listener who had made a Google sheet of all of our episodes leading up to episode 1000. And it's a great record. You can just search it for what we've talked about before because we've done a lot of episodes. So I think we're now over 12. We're definitely over 1,200, close to over 1,300 episodes. And I used to maintain the list after that. And I've stopped because Acast, it's very easy for us behind the scenes talk to track episodes. But if I want to search a topic, it's hard. So Star Wars Rank going forward, we're going to have to really search to see, have we done this or not?
We can do a ranked of episodes we don't remember if we've done. These are our 5 favorite episodes we might have done.
One of the topics that we haven't covered is Last Jedi Memories, which is what we're going to be talking about today. This December and every December has a bunch of wonderful Star Wars anniversaries in it for the modern era. 7 years of Force Awakens, 6 years of Rogue One, and 5 years of The Last Jedi. Joseph, I want to give you all the credit in the world here. You were like, what if we share our memories here? And that's what we're going to do today. We're going to share our memories about seeing The Last Jedi in the theater, leading up to the theater, coming out of the theater. There's a lot of things, Joseph, we're going to be covering here, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. 3 years for Rise of Skywalker anniversaries, memories are popping up. But yeah, that's where this thought came from, is people really made a point on social media of celebrating, the day of the 5th anniversary of The Last Jedi. And I was real busy that day, and I was like, I want to post something. And it's like, I'll just, scroll back on my phone 5 years. And I had a end of high school, like a stereotypical end of high school or college, looking at those photos and hearing these are the times of your life in my head of the photo. Some of them I've used a lot or looked at a lot, but it was just this photo journal of that time. And that's what made me think of this, of just there's so many memories that are about the film and our reaction to it. But also the cultural experience, the community experience around that opening weekend.
Oh, so much. Did Sinatra play in some when I was 17? Yeah, that's what I imagine.
Yes.
Where I had some...
It was a very good year.
I had some weepy John Lennon looking back on his troubles life, ding, 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 ding. So you said it. I mean, this is you suggested this. This was a big winner for me. A lot of focus on the 7 years of Force Awakens, including us here in Force Center, which it's a odd number, literally, to celebrate. But 5 years is a good anniversary number. And I cannot believe it. I don't think anyone can believe it. And we're going to be discussing all these things. We've spent 5 years, Joseph, going in deep on the meanings of The Last Jedi, deep on all the themes and the lessons and the moments. That might pop up here, but like you said, there's going to be some silly stuff. There's going to be some just day of things, merch. This is going to be a lot of fun here. So without further delay, I think we should dive in. We work our way 5-1, and we are looking at our Last Jedi Memories Ranked. That's right. This is the definitive order of our memories. So, Joseph, we're going to begin with your number 5.
Yeah, look, if people have different order of our memories, we will respect that as well. But my number 5 starts with something that I know I have talked about before, but I really need to include it because it is just a vital memory. My number 5 is the build-up to The Last Jedi and finding the Luke Skywalker Jedi Master 3 3/4 action figure in a toy aisle at Target in Burbank. Yes. The action figures are always such a huge part of my Star Wars journey. I've talked about finding the Return of the Jedi Luke Skywalker action figure in 83, the first one where he is a Jedi on a day and time that I didn't expect to. And so it really felt like a gift. in the toy kind of release for Force Awakens was exciting, but it was a little stuttery, and I have some fun memories of finding the first few Force Awakens action figures, and I liked them, but they also had that weird sort of they came with like just big pieces of machinery. I've made the joke of a lot of them come with cannons that are not canon, just like here's a weird mech cannon. And then it was really hard to find Rey, and then Rey was left off some of the toy aisles and Monopoly boards and things like that. So it was this thrill of the sequel trilogy is being released. The big three are coming back. In my first thought back in 2012 was there's going to be a new Luke Skywalker action figure. And then the Force Awakens figures come out, and it was a little messy because of all those reasons. Still some moments of joy. So it's like, all right, Last Jedi. The title has to at least partially refer to Luke Skywalker, I thought at the time. We now, of course, have Rian Johnson saying, no, and it means Luke Skywalker. So I knew that figure was going to come. And it was just a matter of, I know the day that they say the figures are going to be released with Force Friday, but how long is it going to take until the shelves aren't just raided? Yeah. And my wife and I believe it was in October, so we were at Target, I think, like picking up new bags for traveling or something. I was like, I should check the toy aisle. And it was just like when I was a kid. It was exactly what I dreamed. I turned the aisle, and it wasn't just Luke. It was a wall of new figures, and Luke hanging there right in the middle, just like I was a kid. This brand new Luke Skywalker action figure. And then that Last Jedi line was just like, for me, perfection in action figures, because it featured almost all of the main characters. Not all. Holdo was left out. But the packaging was like great and compact. They didn't come with any weird flair. Right. They just came with cool accessories that they should have. And in fact, Luke came with nothing. Right. Because he didn't need anything. He just has the Force. And I picked up that figure and literally just held it to my heart and then did a little photo shoot. My wife was like, you take a picture of this. And it was just a joyful moment that I waited years and years for, a moment that I didn't think would come. It's an action figure. It's a toy. But for me, it's sort of a symbol of how I've carried the ideas of these characters for years and years. And this was what I never thought would happen. A figure of Luke Skywalker when he was old and wise and had been through the ringer like Obi-Wan Kenobi, to see Luke Skywalker in that part of his journey. And now it's alive in physical form. It was such a great moment.
Yeah, you're speaking about the joys of collecting, and as at the time of this recording, this word "cadult" is going around that NBC News article about the toy industry. We mentioned it this week on Force Center too, and there's a lot of discussion around it, and I'm going to own that. I think it's kind of an insulting term, but I'm going to own it, because what you talk about is something that's gone with us our entire lives. We grew up with these figures, so can you imagine telling Joseph Scrimshaw in 1983, look at this figure. This is what you're going to get. Yeah, and that's part of the joy of the sequel trilogy, but Last Jedi, because of the ending and what you're talking about, correctly about the release of the toys of Force Awakens. But Luke's here. I'm staring at the same figure. It's now on my wall. I didn't hug it. I got a little bit later than you, but it means something. It truly means something. It is off the screen into your hands.
Yeah, it's a great little figure. I bought a second one so I can keep him in the package, and I opened that first one that my hands and my eyes landed on, and he is right here at my desk, right by me, and has been for all these years, keeping me company and helping me to try to remember to think through my problems creatively, like Luke does in the movie.
Love that. Great start to our list. We're ranking our Last Jedi memories. That is finding Luke Skywalker's action figure. My number 5 has a little to do with the buildup, and has a lot to do with a moment in the theater that just made me laugh. And when I think about Last Jedi, when a lot of people think about Last Jedi, well, Joseph, they think about porgs, and I'm sure we're going to be talking about porgs a few times today. No surprise there. But my number 5 is Chewie, our good pal Chewbacca, the mighty Chewbacca, does try to eat a porg, and it made me think about the birth of Porg Nation. So, leading up to the Last Jedi run, of course, I was doing a lot of work at the time with Collider and Jedi Council, and one particular episode, the wonderful Ash Crossan had come on in. She was hanging out. And I think her and Jeremy John started talking about porgs. I think, if memory serves, Jeremy actually said Porg Nation first, but Ash took it and ran. And she'd been doing all these wonderful interviews on ET Online with Ryan Johnson. And Porg Mania was coming. But we started teasing her because we're dumb, stupid boys in elementary school. We started teasing her about, well, I think Chewie's going to eat a porg. He's got to eat a porg. We kept joking that Chewbacca is going to grab a porg, pluck the feathers, and eat it. And, unfortunately, the internet ran with that. At one point, Ash was like, please, everyone stop tweeting me about porgs. But Porg Nation was strong. But we were just joking. There was nothing serious about that. I didn't think a porg would be food. And even though technically we didn't see the bite, we, of course, got that moment in the theater where Chewie has grilled one up and is sitting there. It's a great scene. The sad look in the porg's eyes. And I remember seeing it, and Ash was in another part of the theater, and there was an audible laugh by the people who knew. And what was funny is, I think because she had done all these interviews with Ryan, I think Ryan knew that this was coming, but couldn't say anything, couldn't protect her.
Doesn't want to ruin his own joke of like, yeah, no, that prediction is correct.
Yeah, right. Prediction culture has worked again. And it's just one of when I think this deep, profound Star Wars film that stays with all of us and challenges us and is still debated, and all these things you can think about when you think about Last Jedi. But one of the first thing that comes to mind is me just laughing. Not unlike later on when I'd see Vat Weirdo and realize you had pretty much nailed it and got the character that your heart desired in Solo, a Star Wars story with Lulu Primock. But it was just so funny, and it just reminds me of the excitement and the silliness leading up to The Last Jedi. And, as we might even address it, things changed after the movie comes out. Everyone knows. We've all lived it. But it just takes me back to a simpler time when whether or not a porg would be food was all we thought about. So that's my number 5, Chewie and the porg.
That's a great memory of that time and of that community and that excitement. And I'm sure as we're going to talk about from our lists, some of the speculation mania that was a part of the fun. I'm glad to know that some speculation was correct.
Yes, as it is sometimes, which is a dangerous thing about speculating because you can be right. You can be right. So that's my silly but simple number 5 to start our list here. We are going now to your number 4.
My number 4 is emotional. It might be silly to some people, but for me, it is emotional. I was always excited to see a hopefully expanded role for Leia in The Last Jedi. I loved everything with Leia in The Force Awakens. Some of the most meaningful moments to me, if you see our son bring him home and that hug and that look on her face, man. So no slight to The Force Awakens, but just like, wow, we're going to get even more. And then, of course, just the awful truth of Carrie Fisher passing away. And someone had suggested, a pop culture journalist had suggested, honoring. They had a hashtag, but I can't remember what. But maybe it was "Look for Leia," of wearing some sort of a Leia, T-shirt, button, pin, as kind of a movement to really celebrate her at the premiere. And there was a kind of a frustration because there was so much great Last Jedi merch, almost kind of a bonkers. Nothing's ever going to beat Phantom Menace, but teetering on. Yeah. Hey, if the colors white with a slash of red can be printed on it, we're doing it, and it's going to be Last Jedi merch. It was so distinctive, taking that great image of Crate and making it the merchandising, and stuff was everywhere. And a Leia figure wasn't in the initial release. It was very quickly afterwards for the action figures. But even some of the collections of here's a bunch of buttons, here's a bunch of this. There were so many porgs and Praetorian guards and main characters, and there wasn't a lot of Leia. So I ended up getting a Leia sticker from an old sticker book, and it's her on Bespin in her Bespin escape jumpsuit with the blaster, and just putting the sticker on my leather jacket. So I had that. In that, having and my wife wore a Leia sticker and I think a T-shirt. Anyway, so we had this we really want to honor Leia, and the moment in the theater where Leia uses the Force would have been moving no matter what, but all of the context of Carrie Fisher's passing and really selecting something to wear to honor the character made that moment even more powerful because it was another moment of sort of delayed gratification of this has been alluded to since the 80s, that she has that power too. Never quite knowing that story, never quite knowing how much it's going to be played out. Obviously, in Legends, it's played with, but in this new canon with Carrie Fisher herself. And the film was so successful in sort of surprising you that when she whooshed out into the vacuum of space, it wasn't this guaranteed she's going to be fine.
Right.
And I know for some people, they don't like it, and they have, names for that, derogatory names for that scene. And I get it. Everybody's entitled to their opinion. I was deeply, deeply moved. And like, I reached up and like literally touched the sticker on my jacket to be like, I'm celebrating this character. I'm celebrating this moment. It's such a picture of Leia to, in that moment, be intuitive, defiant, reaching out with her hand with this energy of like, I'm not done. I haven't passed on everything I need to. This can't be it for me. I'm going back. So my number 4 is just the reaction, the moment of seeing Leia's flight in the theater.
Look, you and my pal Mark Riley, our friend Mark Riley here, friend of the show, have always been about that scene. Never wavered. And I don't think I've wavered. I'm like you. All right. I get some of the way it might look for 2 seconds might not work for you. Totally get it. I always urge people, push past that. First of all, how else would you want someone to fly through space in the Force? This is what we're dealing with. Anyways, like what's the realistic way that looks for you? Please let me know. But more focus on the music. Focus on her opening those eyes. Focus on that hand coming out. Focus on her connection to Rey, like you're talking about. That's the spirit of the scene. And that was always there for me. And that remains. And I think it's such a wonderful moment. That music cue itself just stands the test of time. That could be a memory of mine, but I'm with you on that. It's a lifetime of waiting for that, right? We really, that's maybe our generation. We always celebrate all generations of Star Wars fans, but that was big. That was a big moment. That theme kicks in, and just the gut punch, but also the inspirational moment it was.
Yeah. And it just becomes more powerful over time as you really see, accept, is maybe a weird word, really invest in the story of Last Jedi. Is sometimes the fight is just you survive to marshal your forces, to inspire other people, to train the younger generation. And sometimes your battle is to just survive. And that's what Leia's doing in that moment. That's her great victory, is just surviving. And that's a big part of what the film is.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah, so that's my number 4.
That's a great number 4. And she's got that wonderful regal Leia robe. That figure hangs on my wall too now, including a mini Funko Pop. I love having that celebrated. But my number 4 revolves around robes as well. And I'll admit, we always say Star Wars ranked is, it's difficult. The difficulty this time around for me was really finding memories. I don't know if I blocked some from my head or just was like, I didn't know where to go. And I was even struggling. Love this film. Love the experience. Of such positive memories of the experience of seeing the film first few times, right? Many different ways. And it was all of a sudden this popped in my head late in the game. And right before I sent my list over to you, just to say, here's what I'm talking about. It was the reveal of Snoke in a gold robe. Now, that figure, the Black Series figure and everything, it's never been, I don't even own it. It's not one of my favorite figures, but I do have a Snoke mini Funko Pop that I'm staring at that has a gold robe on, and I love that one. And there was something about it. We had seen Snoke a little bit in Force Awakens. There was obviously a lot of excitement and wondering and Snoke theories and all that stuff. It was a crazy time, kids. We didn't know, but the reveal of that, I remember talking to Mike Black about it, on air or off. I can't remember now, Joseph. It's been so long. But we were just I don't know. It made me giggle in the most wonderful way. It also was a telling sign about what was going to be coming with Last Jedi. The old, it's not going to go the way you think it's going to go vibe goes a lot of different ways, but that includes a splash of color, the gold robe, the slippers. You could tie that to some of the earlier Palpatine designs. And I'm not saying that was a sign of what was to come. I'm just saying there was some history there. It wasn't just some random thing, but also it was this wonderful random gold robe that whether or not you love that figure or not, or whether or not you love the design, I still remember it, and we're still talking about it. And I just remember it was a to borrow sports. It was a curveball. I was at the home plate waiting for that fastball of a dark robed, red sabered Snoke, and suddenly he's there in a gold robe and slippers with a ring. And I'm like, what is happening? And I look back, and it's one of my favorite things leading up to it, because we're coming into, it's again, Snoke Theory timeline, of Snoke Theory era. And that one was something we could not predict, that Snoke was going to look very unique. And it seems silly. This is a profound movie with some poignant stuff in it we've talked about for ages. I just love that gold robe now more than ever, and I have a positive memory of learning about it.
Yeah, I have foggy memories of that day, because I remember I saw some like hashtag discussion on social media, and I didn't know what it was about. And I think I saw like hashtag gold robe, and it's like, is this some terrifying military operation? What is this about? You know,
what is this?
And then realized that people were like, I think it was, I can't remember, it was Black Series, Lego, both, like some early leaked footage, right?
Yes.
Not leaked footage, but leaked image of the figure, right?
Yes.
And when I kind of pieced together, this is what it's about, I was like, well, this can't be right.
Right? Yes.
And then looked at it and was like, that's bonkers. That's great. I love it. Right. And I really loved it, because it's a different kind of vanity and expression of power. Right. To me, the gold in the slippers is funny, because like, is this like, an 80-year-old who's retired to Palm Springs in a weird mansion and only ever wears their, collection of 87 gold robes? It's got this sort of like weird real life sort of like gold obsession, a little bit of a connection to, the character Goldfinger, who's got, cartoonishly, even in the original Fleming novel, is obsessed with owning and controlling and as much gold as possible and make everything gold. The Austin Powers Gold Member, movie makes fun of that. But there is also like this kind of great history in the real world of how the value of gold has moved different things, and sort of like stealing other people's gold. That for them it was traditional, but for you it's valuable. So you're going to take it and plaster it everywhere. And like, there's all these different implications with gold. So at first it's just sort of like, that's bonkers, because we all know super evil weirdos wear black. Yeah. But this was richer, different, not richer. It was different in that made it rich. And is a real happy memory for me. And then it was a while before the actual 3 3/4 figures were available. I think it was a vintage figure I picked up at Target, and I was like, I'm real hungry too. So I grabbed the Snickers, and I realized it was like a kind of a 2-pack Snickers where it was split in the middle.
Yes.
And I think I said to the cashier, I was like, I'm sorry, I need to take a picture of these two purchases together before you ring them. I'm so sorry.
Go for it. You're highlighting something too that I think is valuable too. Like, I remember, I think a lot of people, myself included, you included, maybe Mike Black, had the reaction of, well, that can't be right, when we first saw it. And now the idea of, villains, wearing gold or being surrounded by gold, it has even extra meaning, but it's always been something. But anyways, I love what you said there. Love that. And yeah, I'm staring at it now. It's just wonderfully bizarre. Part of the movie.
Absolutely great stuff.
So there you go. Snoke and a gold rose, my number 4, but we're working our way up to your number 3, sir.
And my number 3 is another sort of experience of seeing the film. I think as we go through Last Jedi, we talked a little bit about Force Awakens memories on our news show, but there really did get to be a rhythm of the opening of those 5 films, those 5 Star Wars films, right? And in particular, for me, it was like I would try to see it on Thursday as soon as I could with my wife. And then I'd probably see it again on Friday. And then usually Friday or Saturday, Force Center would do their review. And then I'd probably usually see it again on Saturday night, usually with a group. And then usually on Sunday, my wife and I would see it at El Capitan for that experience. And it kind of got into this rhythm. And this was the 3rd time now after Force Awakens, Rogue One. In this particular time, my memory that I wanted to highlight for my number 3 is the very rare thing of all 3 of us from Force Center, you, me, and Jennifer, actually seeing the film together in the same theater, the same building, the same theater, and actually hanging out a little bit afterward. And we really don't have a ton of photos of the 3 of us actually together. We have a decent amount through the magical Photoshop skills of Brian Ward, but for an actual undoctored photo of the three of us together, that one we took in the lobby of the Sherman Oaks ArcLight to see Last Jedi on, I believe, Saturday night after we had done our review, and then this was just the sort of grace viewing, the celebration viewing, is a really happy memory, because I think the closest we ever got to all seeing a film together was we all saw a press screening of Solo, but Jennifer was in the same building, but in a different theater.
Right. Yep.
And they took her phone, so we don't have a ton of photos. Yeah. So I think it's just that I remember lots about that. I remember we got there early because you and I like to get places early, and I was like, I shouldn't have a beer, but I'm gonna. And then like I felt bad. It's like I hardly ever leave a theater, but like I had to, and I knew the movie well enough to pick a moment to rush out. And then I really didn't think people are gonna be able to hang out afterwards. Because Jennifer and her husband, which I think that was the first time we met her husband in person.
Josh, absolutely.
We all hung out at the bar, and I had a martini, and I was like, great, I'm not having another beer because that's too much bladder pressure, so I'll have a martini. Just remember a lot of details of that night, and what a fun experience it was getting to see it all as a group together. I
love that you selected that, and that photo stands the test of time. It's one of those things where 50 years from now you'll look at that photo and be like, they thought they were so young, they thought time would never move. But it highlights highlights a specific time. We're talking a lot today about the joy of the film, and I'll say once again, a lot of things changed in the discourse. A lot of things ramped up. It had been kind of the same, but it ramped up and took a different tone. But that none of that diminished my joy in things like this. When I see that photo, I don't think, and then we had to start debating Last Jedi with everybody. I just think of the joy of seeing it. And you're right. Yeah, 7 years doing this. We've used to be in the same spot to record. Now it's virtually, because wow, that's convenient and easy. And we all live in different parts of LA, and it's not easy to get around LA to meet. Life, 2 kids for Jen later, now, and you and I, busy. I'm living the Chihuahua life. Like, there's just a lot of things. So I value that. I value seeing it, and I value the core of what we do, which is a bond, a friendship. It's a wonderful business venture for us that's still going strong. But that's what brought us together, is 3 like-minded Star Wars fans. Having our partners there, hanging out, and that's Star Wars to me, that community. That's why we're all here. And you out there listening probably have, me and 10 of my friends got tickets, or maybe you're one of those folks like, I rented a theater for 40 people. Or you and your best friend from school got to go see Star Wars, or your father, who that was your tradition, or your mother come along. I love all that stuff. And that was ours. That was ours. Yeah. So it's a big one.
Yeah. And like I said, just kind of seeing that one memory puts me back of those weekends when those 5 films were released, and like, this is what I'm doing all weekend. It's a weekend long celebration. Totally. Record the podcast sometime in there, and like, I miss that, and I can't wait for that again when Star Wars does come back to the movie theater. Yeah, more than that, the question of, I know this is a bigger question of theaters and movies and the industry going forward, and it's all changing, and I love having Star Wars at home. I love having Star Wars movies at home, but when I say because I've had some friends off air say, aren't you okay not having a Star Wars movie? And it's like, well, from a certain point of view, we're getting great stories on Disney Plus. But what you're talking about, Joseph, is why I miss Star Wars in the theater. And all that. And also, for what it's worth, side conversation, when you hear out there listening, when you hear people from LA bemoan the loss of ArcLight, this is why. ArcLights were a spectacular community-based movie experience. They did cost a little bit of money, but I have a lot of memories. Sometimes even myself, seeing an Oasis documentary and drinking gin and tonics and being able to bring it into the theater was my own community with the Gallagher brothers. But I love that too. And there's other theaters that do that. There's other theaters that replicate that. There's something special about it. So I know sometimes you might hear us LA people. I forget where else ArcLight might have been. I apologize. Chicago, I think there was one.
But you hear a lot of it. A lot of LA people on social media. That's why it's for cinephiles or just fans. It was an experience, and that's why it ranks high in our memories too. So, anyways, maybe a weird tangent, but I want to defend ArcLight fans.
Arclight learned the great aesthetic of the Phantom Menace, where everything was sort of built in a circular feeling. So it captured and created community, and the bars were really open. So there's a sense of you're surrounded by people celebrating theater and happy to be out. It's very purposeful and well done construction of all of their theaters.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. And it's a great photo. We'll have to, in 2023, we'll endeavor to get a new one. I'd update that. I don't even wear that jacket or that hat anymore. All right. My number 3 is, I'm just going to say what the title is and I'll dive in and explain it. It's realizing that speculating was fun folly. So our Speculate Responsibly kind of tag, the t-shirt we sell, and a lot of people out there will quote us and say, hey, like Force Center says, speculate responsibly. We've explained kind of the how and the whys of that, but a lot of it does have to do with Last Jedi for us and specifically for me. And I at the time, again, very thankful to work there, and it led me to my wonderful fiance. But Collider Video was an interesting time, and it was a different kind of way of discussing pop culture and movies. And in the end of the day, I wasn't my favorite way to discuss things. Grew from that, changed from that, but no problem with those who enjoyed it. I want to be clear about that. But there was a lot of pressure to sit down on a set and be like, "What's your prediction? Who's going to show up? What do you think is going to happen?" And that's fun. We still do it. We still ask those questions. Who's going to be in Ahsoka season 1? Who's coming up in Mando 3? Love that stuff. But there's an emphasis on it that I think cuts out the themes, the lessons, the art of what you're talking about. I'm a big sports fan, but it turns it into betting at the old booking, the booking club stuff in Vegas, like going to the books, going to the sports book. And looking back, I'm glad that changed. But for me, it changed in the theater. In the theater, the first screening, which I got to go to the big event here. I'm sitting there, and Rey goes to the cave, and Rey, the great sequence that you and I talked about in Force Center scene by scene, and she goes to that mirror kind of rock window, and the two shadows are coming up, and then it's her face. Now, obviously, at the time, we got some additional information. Rise of Skywalker comes out, whatever, and I enjoy that film and enjoy the reveal. But in 2017. Her face shows up on the wall, and the idea of Rey being no one in that moment. And for that time, I just laughed quietly. Didn't want to ruin anyone around. I laughed because I realized the 2 years of speculating, which, by the way, this popped up a lot. Rey could be no one. Rey could be, related to a lot of people. That's the thing about predictions. Sometimes they're right. But it just, to me, was like, none of it mattered. None of it mattered. Mm-hmm. The story mattered. And what it meant for this character in this moment, what it meant for the movie, what the themes were. Last Jedi is sometimes has this, they wanted to go against expectations, and sometimes it's used positively and sometimes it's used negatively, and we can discuss it another time. In that particular moment, there was so much in this film that we didn't expect. So many things where they went this direction, and people clearly have problems with it. And the what ifs and the should haves and the could haves, we can debate for days. But in that particular moment, Rey at the wall, Rey seeing only herself, Rey not getting an answer, Rey being told that it doesn't matter. They died, died in the desert, drunks, Popper's grave, all that stuff. I just had a smile on my face. It changed. We had already been discussing things a certain way on the Force Center side. I've always loved and what you brought to the table early on, Joseph, of, hey, let's look at what some of the stuff means, because I wasn't trained that way. Mm-hmm. And I was in this video game of literally making a scoreboard to see who got them right. And I just realized, that doesn't mean anything for me anymore. I'm just going to sit here in the theater and take the stories as they come. And I'm forever thankful to The Last Jedi in that particular moment for that reveal. Speculating will always be fun, but if you hold on to it too tight, it's folly.
Yeah, if you hold on to it too tight, it's folly. It's such a great way to say it. And to hear you really describe your experience of that was needed of you, that was requested of you, that was expected of you, and that was a big part of the job. And I wasn't there a lot. I popped into a couple of guest spots on Jedi Council, but I knew that was expected of me too. Of like I can prattle for maybe 2 minutes about some sort of a deep emotional thing, but this is that's what the audience is watching for, and I always want to respect an audience that I'm in front of. That was a part of what was that show was what are your guesses of what could happen and why, and it can be really fun. And I think I think maybe for me, there's just such a difference between what do I hope happens because it feels right, because I feel that this might be the truth of the character. I would love that meaning to be explored, a hope, a dream. Even those, I think you need to handle lightly, because you just got to accept the story that's being told to you, or at least try to. And if it's not for you, then say, okay, that one wasn't for me.
It wasn't for me.
Hopefully the next one will be. There's kind of, to me, a difference between like a hope and a dream and a scoreboard, right? Like you said, of like everybody's betting. I put money down on Reza Kenobi. That I just feel like that scoreboard mentality distances you from the story, right? Because you're just thinking about you, of like, am I going to be right? Which to me is so different than, man, I really feel this, I really believe this about this character. It would be so fulfilling if that moment happened. I think that's still an engagement with the story,
I could go on and on about it. And I don't, again, we when we say it's fun, it's because we still do it. And that's the t-shirt. That's Speculate Responsibly and all that stuff. And we've gone on about that before. But a case in point of like, I almost include this memory. It was just a fun personal memory, but it was at the Last Jedi world premiere. I was a +1, by the way. I always clarify that. I did not have access. I was a +1 because someone's wife couldn't go. All right. So that's how I got there. And on Jedi Council, at one point, I jokingly said,
subversion of expectations.
Subversion of well, that goes into the shill conversation, which makes me mad. It's like my access was a wife was unable to go that night. My second access was it was a school night, and my friend's daughter couldn't go. That's my vaunted access. But on Jedi Council at one point, I had said, I remember the moment I said, I don't know. I bet Luke doesn't even leave that island, right? I didn't say it because I was tracking the themes. I didn't say it because any other way other than, I don't know, here's a silly guess. So walking into the premiere, Ryan Johnson's brother, Chris, I believe his name, comes up to me and goes, hey, I'm Ryan's brother. I think his name was Chris again. Because we watch you on Jedi Council. I just want to say, you guys are the closest to predicting what's right. And I remember thinking, woo, look at me, king of the castle. I didn't know one thing about the themes around that prediction. It was just silly. It was a folly. It was a wild pick. And that's what's changed for me is you can go down a checklist of you think this character is going to show up, this and that. But why? Why do you think that has much more value to me to not just talking about Star Wars, but to appreciate it and letting it into your heart? Why Luke only stays on the island and the decision he makes is way more powerful than ding, ding, ding. I got one. And that's for me why it jumps off the screen. And that's why that Rey moment, again, additional information comes out. There's more movies. Episode 8 was not the end of the saga, but I was just laughing because it was like, none of it meant anything. The story, the themes, that's what it means. That's what I'm going to carry with me. Anyways, and rant, because it changed. This movie changed how I think about and talk about Star Wars.
Yeah, no, and I think it did for a lot of people, and those are great memories because you're reflecting on your themes, of how you were approaching it and why, and how it changed and why, and great stuff.
Yeah. So, anyways, I'll end I'm getting off the soapbox. Speculate Responsibly. T-shirts available on TeePublic, and we'll go to your number 2.
My number 2, I've had some deeply emotional ones. This is a fun one because Last Jedi had, I think, a great balance of there is some incredible depth. There are some relationships that mean so much to fans. The relationship between Kylo Ben and Rey, so powerful. What Luke is going through is so powerful. Leia's needing to pass on this message of hope and leadership. There's so many great, powerful things, but there's fun. There's some great action scenes. The Porgs do so much heavy lifting for just hey, remember, this should be fun too. This is what the heroes are ultimately fighting for, is to have joy in the galaxy, and which is not possible with huge amounts of oppression. So all of that to say, my number 2 is adding a Porg scream to an annual holiday comedy bit that my wife and I had been doing for many years. So we've got a YouTube video of it now, but we did it live for many years. I think the first year was like 2008. where my wife is a dancer. She has been in many productions of the Nutcracker over the years. She has a lot of memories of it. I was doing a holiday comedy variety show, and I kind of needed a new bit. And I was like, what is the story of the Nutcracker? My wife, kind of laid it all out for me. I was like, that's bonkers. So the bit is I do a little description of what the actual story is while Sarah does this sort of comic fast dance to it. In a big part of the Nutcracker is the second act, where just all these kind of dances are performed for the main characters. And as a part of the bit that we do, I would throw in like, okay, and then there's the Russian dancers who, dance about this. And then Dalek from Doctor Who shows up. And we've been doing the bit, and I was like, this needs some freshening up. Let's be of the time. Let's be of the moment. So that holiday 2017 is like, I added, and then a porg shows up and does its battle cry, and Sarah did the little porg wings, not rising very high but kind of flapping and doing, and we sat here in our living room like going, I think it's more like this. I think it's more. I think there's two. Like in the trailer, it's one, but in the movie, it's two.
Right.
Yeah, and the different porg screams. That's just a happy memory because that's one of the fascinating things about Star Wars is I think one of the ways we process it as fans in a culture, and one of the ways that it kind of becomes our own is it becoming a reference and becoming a joke and popping up in places that you wouldn't expect it to, and hearing the laugh and the response from other people who are kind of all in Star Wars fans, or at that time everybody knew what a porg and a porg scream was because everybody was seeing this movie, and the bit went over great. Added a nice big fresh laugh to the Nutcracker. So that is my number 2, adding the porg scream to the Nutcracker comedy bit.
Man, that is a wonderful crossover and clash of properties, right? That's an IP crossover we want. I love it. I nothing much more I can add about the porgs other than I just love them. I still got that Funko Pop right here on my desk with me. I love that scream moment. 1 or 2 screams doesn't matter. I love the porg hitting the window in the Falcon. I love the porgs in the Falcon. I love the porgs touching the lightsaber, ready to almost launch it into their own eyes. I just absolutely adore those creatures, and keep Star Wars weird, and they're part of it. And I love that. I love that tale. I wish there was documentary footage of you and Sarah trying to practice that screaming. A little lower at the wings, higher. Yeah.
Lower wings, higher pitch. Yeah. Okay. Got it. Nailed it. And like I said, there's a YouTube video of it. So if you go on my YouTube page and look for Nutcracker, you can watch a version of the bit we recorded back in 2020 when we were all at home.
Love that. Love that there. Great number 2. We got some honorable mentions and our number 1 choices on the way, but right now, my number 2, and when I think about Last Jedi memories, you got to go again to the film. You got to think of the reactions of the time. You and I and Jennifer over the years love discussing some of those, man, I was there moments. And I mean that both in the sense of there was great. I have great joy and great memories as I do of this moment, but also as evidence for future generations that might not remember the moment correctly, or use it against the moment, or use it to talk about the film in a negative way. Obviously, a lot of different opinions of Last Jedi out there, but I was there, man. The theater reaction to Rey's hand reaching up to grab the hero's blade after it cuts through Snoke. And then the back-to-back slow motion fight, the pause, right before all that with Kylo's red blade kind of lighting up and illuminating his face. And you don't know which way this is going to go. And all those memes edited to rock songs, Led Zeppelin, and whatever you want to do of just them back-to-back fighting. I love that moment. Love what it means. I love what it means for the character. I love the twist of Snoke going right there. I love Kylo Ren decides I'm going to be Kylo Ren. No one going to tell me what to do. I love all of it. But that moment, the blade, the music, the hand, that hit every time I saw it. That hit whether it was a press screening, whether it was a premiere with nervous performers there, whether it was the wonderful general Star Wars fandom going out on a Saturday night to see that film. That first week, that moment hit every single time. It still gives me chills. It's when Grace and I put on Last Jedi, I think she only wants to watch the movie to get to that moment, right? Like it's everything. And we love the one in Force Awakens. We love the blade coming to her there, but this one has a special, it does. I love those memes. Maybe the memes have filtered into my memories, but that's a rock star moment for me. I hear Led Zeppelin playing anytime I hear, but I also hear John Williams' wonderful music cues. It's everything to me. I love that GD moment. It's one of my favorites. And just like Attack the Clones and Yoda, you can make fun of it all you want, but when Yoda's shadow emerged and his footsteps were heard and he came around the corner to face Dooku, every theater I was in 2002 cheered. And so it was the same in 2017. Rey, the hand, the blade, the crowds loved it.
I'm with you. 5 screenings or 4 screenings the opening weekend. Screams every time.
Yeah,
screams and applause. It's such a well constructed moment because it's like a song when you think like, oh wow, that was the coolest hook ever, and then there's like a beat. The song pauses and then it comes back with an even surprising, even better hook.
Yes,
like the shock of Snoke going out. Mm-hmm. The sort of coolness of what Kylo did, the first time you see it, question of, is he really on her side or is this just for him? And then it's not set up as her catching the blade moment. It's a surprise, right? Because we're so focused on what he has done to Snoke. And then that hand comes up as this great surprise of like, did you think that was cool? Well, how about this?
It's the old the Bob Rock pause, and then the actual chorus hits. You're just taking the song gets going. Love it. Well said. Love it. Love it. Love it. Love everything about it. We could talk about that moment for hours, but we'll move on. But before we move on, we're going to take a quick break here in Star Wars Ranked. And when we come back, some honorable mentions, our number one choices. We are sharing our Last Jedi memories and giving you the definitive ranking of our own personal memories. You can't debate them. These are ours. No, come on back here for more Star Wars. Welcome back to Star Wars Ranked. I'm Ken Namsuck. That is Joseph Scrimshaw. We are here in the virtual studio sharing our Last Jedi memories. What are yours? We want to know. We'll tell you how at the end of the show. We are going to get to some honorable mentions. We often try to cap our honorable mentions. But Joseph, when I was making a list, then it would branch off like a tree, like a flow chart to that memory. So I tried to stop myself here. But what are some of your memories?
Yeah, I really wanted to kind of capture a lot of not just that first weekend, but the general, everything that was happening. My first one goes to my first screening of there was there got to be that really tense period for me where there was the premiere, and then worrying. Like literally having to stay off social media because people would post things that they don't feel are spoilers, but to me are, especially after talking about it so much and knowing. But if you even infer this, then it might mean this, and suddenly all these dominoes fall. That's just my thing. So, the great tension of those days in between the premiere and Thursday coming and actually getting to see it and stay away from social media, and bringing all of that to the screening at ArcLight Hollywood, which sadly not currently in business, but was walking distance from our home. That's our Sarah and I's theater, so we walked down there. This is a screening at 7:00, and I'm sure he did it as all the staggered 7:00, 7:05, 7:10. But Ryan Johnson showed up to introduce the film, and that was cool and fun. And he made some jokes at his own expense of like well, I should clarify. So at ArcLight, there would always be the employees in ArcLight suits, and they would do the same speech about where the exits are, bringing food in, what's coming up, if there's any problems, look for somebody in this shirt. And it was really fun because you could tell the people who were like, I hate this part of the job. You could tell the people who are like, this was their side job in LA and they want to be a stand-up comedian because they try to find the jokes in it. So it wasn't like, hello, I'm director Ryan Johnson. It was Ryan Johnson playing that he was the person at the ArcLight, the employee doing the spiel.
It's great.
And he said, this film is directed by Rian Johnson. It's got a running time of whatever Last Jedi's running time is, 2 hours. He's like, so you you should really go to the bathroom. That's too long. Like, really had a sense of fun about it. And the reason I included it in my honorable mentions is, hey, it's always fun to see someone from the film. You're lucky to have that happen in Los Angeles. And I got a lot of fun memories of it. But I think for me, it's not, I saw director Rian Johnson. Rian Johnson also just on a Tuesday night would sometimes go to that theater. I think that was just his home theater to just see a movie too.
Yeah.
And what was so obvious in the way that he did it was his love of movies, his love of the experience of seeing movies, his love of the theater going community in Hollywood. Not that that's a better theater community than anywhere else, but it's where he lives. And everybody knows the spiel of the ArcLight. It was less I'm here to introduce my film, and more like, this is an opportunity to do a bit about the funny introductions at the ArcLight. It was more about that than, bow down to the director of the Star Wars movie. It was so about a love of the community experience of seeing theaters, and the fact that that's the way that he chose to celebrate opening night of, a big accomplishment of making a Star Wars movie. I just thought that was really cool and really charming.
It's and I think that's one of the things I love about him. I think he just has that vibe, right? And rolls with the punches, and he takes a lot of punches, but that's a fun memory indeed. Yeah, and it just does speak, again, I guess we're advertising the memories of ArcLight. It's something fun. It's a great atmosphere. It was a great atmosphere. Hopefully something like it can return. But yeah, I love it. And I love that you got to experience it, because I think I only got to experience some like Instagram posts and stuff. And so my memory is through your eyes.
Yeah, and it really did ripple through the film. Is that Rian Johnson? That's the director of the film. Yeah. Do you want me to run through a couple more? And then pitch you?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll keep them a little shorter. Another one is, I think we first discovered it walking to the ArcLight to see a different film in November, whenever the billboards went up. But the billboards went up all over town with that great white and red design with different characters. And one went up of Leia near us, and just absolutely beautiful photo. The power of Leia's eyes and staring out over the horizon, just beautiful, and like a tribute to Carrie Fisher. And then making it perfect, it was on the roof of this just typical dumpy little 7-Eleven. It was just like, it was perfect Carrie Fisher. It was the true beauty, power, royalty of Leia. And then as just this great undercutting fart noise on top of a 7-Eleven. And you could just, who knows how Carrie Fisher would have made the joke, but you can just see her making the joke of like, oh, look at all the beauty. And they stick me on top of the, burnt hot dog place. Great. It was the twofer of the beauty and the comedy.
It works. I know I've told this before, but when I got the chance to co-host that panel with her, and here I am like, hello, Ms. Fisher, I'm going to be, and she's like, I need to change my pants. That would have Carrie would have appreciated being on top of a 7-Eleven.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Give me the next one, because I don't remember you even discussing this one, and I'm so curious. I've got it on my list here, and I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, understandably, it is listed in my notes as Phasma Pants in Minneapolis, which sounds like a band I saw at First Avenue. No, Sarah and I were just so all in this whole experience, and we were another trip to Target where we were preparing to go to Minneapolis, and there's just so much Last Jedi merch, and we were at this Target, and this woman came up to me in the toy aisle and asked me some questions, which I always like, and she was like, my kids like this, so I guess I gotta get them some stuff, and I gave her some pointers, and then we kept bumping into this same woman, and she kept getting more and more derogatory about Star Wars. We're also buying things. She kept finding like sweaters like, who would want this? I'm buying it, but who would want this? Is silly. Who wants Chewbacca on their pants? Anyway, so at this trip, my wife was like, we both need some new sweatpants. Let's get some Last Jedi ones. And there's these giant, over-decorated, over-the-top, giant picture of Phasma and some of the Executioner troopers. So we bought a matching pair of Phasma pants. And then when we were in Minneapolis in 2017, in our hotel room on Christmas morning, we had packed them, and my wife was like, for Christmas morning, we need to put on our Phasma pants. So put on the Phasma, bought them in LA, put them on for the first time in Minneapolis over the holidays. And I love those Phasma pants so much. I literally I wore them out. I sat a hole in the butt. And my wife needs to patch up my Phasma pants one of these days. So that's what Phasma pants in Minneapolis is about.
Love that. Phasma pants. Indeed. That's great. It's great.
Yeah.
Well, that was some of my memories here. I want to share another in the theater one, and guess this is the couple different screenings, and it's the Holdo maneuver. We have to talk about the Holdo maneuver and seeing it for the first time, and I think again, same with you. I'm trying to remember the numbers, but like the first 4 or 5 screenings, right? That first weekend, it hit every time. And again, we talk about the debates, the pointless and absolutely sometimes disgusting debates about Holdo that would follow. But the moment itself, and no one was worried about the science of it. No one was worried about what was or not said before about jumping to light speed and all that stuff. It just was the moment. And it silenced every audience. But my particular specific favorite memory, and we try, over the years, we used to swear a lot more freely in Force Center back in the day. Every once in a while, one slips off. So I'm going to warn people, I'm going to say the actual word that was said. All right, so hide your kids. I was at the Directors Guild screening with my friend Jack Harraguth, who was a development guy for Defy Media at the time, and he invited me. And it was great. It was Ryan's birthday. They had a cake for him. It was awesome. Great experience, right? But again, we're fans. We're fans. And the Holdo, this is about the 4th time I had seen the Holdo maneuver that weekend or that week. It happens. There's the silence. There's the sound. There's the explosion. The almost kind of black and white vision on the screen. There's silence. There's audible. And then one dude in the front row goes, "Oh, shit." And no one laughed, though. Everyone was like, yeah, man. And it just remains as one of my favorite Star Wars moments. So gotta discuss that.
I think you saw a screening with Sergeant Linus Musk from Andor, right?
Yeah. Oh, God, that maneuver. It was something else. Which is why, I think a lot of people understand and get our points of view, Jen included, on Holdo maneuvers, or just going into Star Wars on a micro detail level and analyzing the science of it there. Sometimes you can approach it with a fun spirit. Our pal from the Schmodown world, Brandon Hanna, does some great videos because he has an engineering science background. Hey, here's the science of it. I think that stuff's fun. But when it's used against this space saga, it's like, man, no science, and I'm all for science in the real, but no science will take that moment away from me or that dude in the DGA screening. No Neil deGrasse Tyson facts are going to be more valuable to me than whoa. And that's why I love that moment.
Because it's all emotion. It's set up so well with Leia saying she can't, take any more losses. And and Holdo is showing Poe like, it's not that I'm against doing dangerous, risky, high stakes things. It's just you got to pick the moment for it to be worthwhile.
You got to ask about the why. Another smaller moment for me is you and I talk about, there's always that feeling of a new Star Wars property comes out, movie, TV show, comic book, and you feel a little lost because you've spent your whole life knowing every little detail about Star Wars, and then there's new stuff. Mm-hmm. And it's still scary. It's scary. You might lose a trivia contest because you don't know a quote from 2019 or something like that. But what we always want to celebrate here is that's just a chance to fall in love with something all over again and fall in love with something completely new. And for me, learning about the MG-100 Star Fortresses and seeing them. And I've mentioned before, one of my favorite films is the World War II film Memphis Belle, about the old bombers, and just, wars is a tragedy, but the personal stories within them, and just things that, I can be fascinated by that. I don't want to say I'm one of those World War II guys, those guys, but I'm on the border.
I do.
I'm on the border of that. So seeing it and learning about a resistance bomber, this is before I even saw the sequence. And then, you learned already, we knew going into the film, one of my favorites, Tali Lintra and the A-Wing, and she was leading the evacuation. We knew the sequence was kind of coming. And then it shows up and it delivers, and it's both heroic, especially the Paige Tico stuff, and it's also tragic, and it's got this important lesson for Poe, all that stuff that we would celebrate and dive into later on. I just remember, and I'm staring again, I have one of those the little Matchbox minis that you can get like 7-Elevens, with Leia floating over the top of the 7-Eleven. I'm staring at it now. It's just, I love the design, and I love the design because it is so Star Wars, and it's clunky, and it feels slow and it looks awkward. It's kind of an ugly ship that's beautiful. And I just love everything about it. And that's part of the joy of new Star Wars is what is in here that I don't know yet that will become my favorite. And I love those MG-100s.
Yeah, they're so great. I remember, getting excited with them and talking with you about them, and then going over to my friend Brian's house, and he had put together a whole Lego set of it. And it's like, oh, MG-100 Star Fortress. And it's a great ship. So immediately celebrated.
Yeah, indeed. I'll toss one more here, then I'll close with one after I pitch back to you, sir. But going again, I'm going to go into the theater here. And this had been one that it had been one of those predictions and comes true, but nothing about a not prediction from me, but a prediction that had been floating around the offices. I think someone had an inside tip. But hey, it didn't take away the joy of Luke coming around the corner. He and Rey just get into a little bit of a tiff. She's bolting. She's grabbing Chewie, the Porg, and the Falcon and leaving. And Luke's going to go burn down that Jedi temple, that Jedi library there. And the camera pans across and we see the ears of Yoda. The smile, the joy, my heart flipped, the music, Yoda's theme, the sound of enlightenment, the sound of comfort and home and knowledge and wisdom and all those wonderful things. And just everything about that sequence. I know it gets a lot of people and we are what they grow beyond and lessons of failure, but it all begins with the cutest, most wise ears in the galaxy appearing on screen. And the fact that we were seeing Yoda and Luke Skywalker in 2017 is never lost on me. It was surreal. It was awesome. I felt it really worked. And I just love that moment.
Yeah, it's so powerful. And I think one of the things about Last Jedi that's really powerful is, the Force Awakens, people talked a lot about some of the literal structural similarities with A New Hope and even some of the aesthetics and having a few seconds of a trench run. And that was, beyond, arguments that have nothing to do with the film that are about, frankly, just, racism, sexism, that kind of thing for The Force Awakens. Beyond that, the main talking point to my memory was it was too similar to A New Hope, right? And then here comes The Last Jedi, which feels in lots of ways, surprising, lots of twists, lots of things that people didn't expect. But when you really spend time with the film, it is so emotionally, thematically in tune with Empire Strikes Back. Yeah. Which all of that is to say, it felt so right that Yoda was here in this second chapter that's really about stumbling and failing and just the power of getting closer to the people you love, the power of learning lessons, the power of surviving long enough to put those lessons to use, those ideas that bond Empire Strikes Back in The Last Jedi. So appropriate that Yoda would show up and go, "You still got some learning to do, old man."
Luke Skywalker. Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. What's on your list as well, sir? Honorable mentions.
Yeah, so I got two more. One is, I was trying to think of the best way to celebrate this. I love that scene at the end where we see that Luke's standing out there in front of the whole First Order with nothing but his lightsaber and bravery. It succeeded in being an inspiration, and we see that celebration of the kids playing with basically action figures. We've talked about it a lot. The Last Jedi has got lots of twists and surprises, but it's all to torture the core ideas of Star Wars and test them and then ultimately validate them. And that scene at the end is such validation of, have you ever been inspired by Star Wars? Have you ever, played with an action figure of Luke Skywalker and then dreamed about being like him, or realized you can be like him, or you can be like Leia? That's what this film is about. This film is saying you were right to feel that way. We tested it. We torture tested it. We looked at the ideas. You're right to feel that way. And there's so much focus on Timothy Blake and learning his name, and then the immediate cycle of, will Rey train him? And the next film, is he an important character? And all through that, I was like, I can't remember when I got the visual dictionary. I was like, cool, yeah, Timothy Blake, great. Who's the kid telling the story, though? Right. Who's the kid who appeared to have made custom action figures on his downtime in his not great life? And that is Oniho Zaya. And I was so thrilled to learn Oniho Zaya's name, because now I'm a little bit of a hipster, but I know a lot of people are Timothy Blake fans. But I'm an Oniho Zaya fan, because how can Tamir Bleg even be inspired unless Oniho goes and makes those custom action figures and tells the story with such a verve and panache?
That's great. I want a Star Wars world where Oniho Zaya and Nemec hang out and share models and toys that they've made.
Yeah. In the world between worlds, all of the toy makers and the model makers can meet and have a good playtime together.
Yeah, no, I love it. I love the memory, and you know, you're joking calling yourself a hipster, but I think it's valuable. Broom Kid definitely took the headlines. Totally get it. Totally get why. And it's maybe Ryan holding the mirror up to himself at the end, but yeah, it's an entire sequence there, and Oniho Zaya is the one telling the story, and it's valuable. Love it.
Yeah, Broom Kid is great, but so is Custom Action Figure Kid.
Yeah,
they're both good.
Yeah,
they're both.
Yeah.
And my final one, my final honorable mention. I don't want to remix everything that we talked about, but it is the first. We did our review, and then we did our kind of next episode. At that point, our main show was news, a deep dive topic, and some questions all in one.
Yeah, we tossed them all in one.
And our first just kind of next episode after Last Jedi, Jennifer had a conflict. I can't remember what it was. And we brought in our friend Audrey Kearns. We actually did that episode with her. So my honorable mention is recording that episode, because we got past the initial joy. We got past the sort of initial analysis. I think by then I'd already recorded a Star Wars counseling episode about Luke. And it was now our first episode in a post Last Jedi world, in the level of the backlash and the nature of the backlash, and then the backlash to the backlash was already starting to become evident. By this Monday or Tuesday or whenever we recorded it that next week,
right.
And that's the episode that Speculate Responsibly comes from. That's where it started. I think I know I wrote it down. I didn't mean it as like this is going to be our new catchphrase, but I really wanted to talk about it. And then Audrey said it too, and I think you might have too, like just organically before I got to it on my notes,
Yeah.
And I think that's a happy memory because it was just a really different episode. Obviously, Jennifer is our partner, and not to diminish that in any way, but I love Audrey, and Audrey has our age too, and has kind of gone through all the ups and downs of fandom as well, and is such a diehard fan. So that was a fun perspective as well. But I think for me, a lot of where the Speculate Responsibly comes from is a game that, in my opinion, the creators didn't mean to happen. I think the level of speculation and the nature of speculation between The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi, and again, feel free to disagree, but in my opinion, it was like a Frankenstein's monster that the creators didn't mean to make. J.J. Abrams is on record of like, I gave that mystery box talk at a TED Talk because I didn't have any other ideas. My friend suggested it. I'm really not all about mystery boxes, and I'm forever tarnished with it. I think he's actually given an interview saying, I wish I didn't do that TED Talk. I don't think he meant for Force Awakens to be a mystery box that made us go, the most important thing out of this film is who is Rey's parents? What is Snoke's secret background? What's Luke going to do with the lightsaber is, a literal cliffhanger, as Mark Hamill's made the joke. Fair enough. But some of the, just like what we were talking about earlier, the things that could become who guesses correctly, they took on a life of their own. So it's one of the most amazing experiences I've had in the theater seeing The Last Jedi, where some of Rian Johnson's choices in the film, I think, were meant to challenge expectation, but he couldn't know that a huge amount of fan energy, a huge amount of actual financial value in people clicking on videos that made guesses. He couldn't know that people had huge guesses, a massive guessing game about what's Luke's first words. What's he going to do with the saber? Huge guessing game about Rey's parents. Who's guessing game about who Snoke is? I think that there's no way he could have known that he was pulling the rug out from under the way so many of us were watching that film. Yeah. And that to me is a huge part of Speculate Responsibly, of remember to just like slow down and listen to what the creator is saying, because the creator has often created it before the fandom has had a chance to start making up our theories. And like, It's not an answer to your questions. These answers were, the story was created by Rian Johnson long before we had the chance to speculate.
Mm-hmm.
So things that felt like direct responses in the film for the last 2 years were not direct responses. And I think that's it. Like sitting in the theater, it felt like Rian Johnson was going, "Oh, were you all debating what he was going to say? Man, he's not going to say anything."
Yeah.
Do you want to know the parents? Yeah, no answer. Oh, do you really curious about who Snoke's where Snoke come from? Doesn't matter. He's in half.
He's dead.
It felt. I understand how to some people it felt like a meh, gotcha. But the way it was constructed, that was on the fandom for making that our focus, in my opinion, because he had already crafted those stories. It wasn't a response to us.
Yeah. I had my rant earlier. I'll just nod politely, but yes, he couldn't have. He couldn't have. He was right. He was writing the script while the movie was being made.
Force Awakens was being made. Yeah.
Force Awakens was being made. Yeah. And, again, it's the easiest way. It's the most productive way to talk about these things. And again, I keep highlighting, it's fun. It's fun. We have that when we review it. What do we think is going to happen in the next week of Andor? It's fun. It's absolutely fun. But it became an industry. It became a moneymaker. And I just think it's how a lot of people still just discuss art. And it's fun pop culture art, but it's still art and has great meaning. And that's why we push for the why. Push for the why. You got a theory? Why? Tell me why.
Yep. And that is another reason that I wanted to select recording that specific episode where we talked about all these issues and started the Speculate Responsibly, line that we use. During that same episode, we also brought up okay, hey, what if Rey adopts the name Skywalker? What if she becomes Rey Skywalker? Because Star Wars is a found family story. And this isn't to say to pat ourselves on the back. Many people thought that. Yeah. But I think that's an example of, that's not a prediction on a scoreboard to win in Vegas.
Yeah.
That's what does a character want and need? The character has wanted and needed connection. What is the film that we just saw about? It's about the older generation mentoring the younger generation. What is Star Wars about? It's about found family, among many other things. So to me, that was like a hope, a dream that made thematic sense, that made why sense, Yeah. And to me, that's where I like to stay of if this happened, if the story was interested in this, could these things happen?
Yeah.
And I think in our Speculate Responsibly, genesis of that episode, we speculated responsibly on some things that may or may not happen in the future.
Yeah. And like I always say, I love when I'm wrong. I shouldn't be writing these things. Love that. But I also love when we're right, or, not because we're right, like you said, on the back of a stat of a prediction baseball card, but because we're clued in, we're tuned in to what these characters want and need. I think that's a great way to look at it. That's a wonderful honorable mention list. That's a ranked in itself, all that.
Yep.
My final one, I want to share this. So I'll try to be as honest as I can at this. So I was lucky enough to experience the world premiere at USC for this one. I got to go to Solo to the premiere down in LA, and that I always want to be careful when I'm telling those stories. Got a lot of wonderful stories, a lot of wonderful interactions and celebrity interactions, celebrity brother interactions, some friends of mine that I met there. And, it became something, and not everyone, for a while, there was a struggle to even get you and Jen on a press list. And I had to struggle to get on a press. Like I said, I was a +1. So when I was let go from Collider, I didn't have those contacts, and I had to who can I get on? I need to just, and what happened? One of the things around Last Jedi is everyone was kind of rooting for folks. Oh my gosh, look at that podcast. They got to go to Force Awakens or Rogue One. And then when opinions started to change on the movies, that's when people started having these issues emerged. And that's the whole very frustrating, gets me angry shill talk comes from a lot of that stuff. And so I have a weird relationship with my memories of those events because they're very fun. And I want to celebrate what I got to experience. I got to pick out a Darth Vader suit and Vader socks, and that's part of my Instagram memories and my Facebook memories of that Last Jedi premiere. But it became this thing of status and access, and a lot of people misinterpreting and not just just not understanding what a lot of those things are. It wasn't a reward for you were a good podcast. We'll pat you on the head. You're a good YouTube show. You could get to go to the premiere. Now there's different things now. There's a fan engagement division of Lucasfilm that's a little bit different. There was press stuff. And I think we were raised because we think red carpet premiere, we picture Marilyn Monroe or Jimmy Stewart and Cary Grant. And I wasn't there. I don't know what the vibe was there, but the press things are, the premieres are supersized press events in which you're showing this movie. You can celebrate it. The cast is there, but you're also trying to make sure people are going to go talk about it. And I can guarantee you that a lot of people I attended these premieres with still had unfavorable views of a lot of the movies and still do, and they still get to go back. It's not a merit system. It's part of the job. Now, all that to say, it was fun. A lot of cool exchanges, a lot of cool memories. I regret never approaching Frank Oz, The Last Jedi. I should have. I wanted to talk Dirty Rotten Scoundrels with him, all that stuff. But I even had a sense of, wow, look what I got to do. But this memory is a humbling one. Me, as Harloff Ellis and the owner of the crypto guy who owned the company, we were all going to take a limo, right? And that's, you kind of need to take a car to get down to it. There, and the other half of the Collider crew was in another limo. And there was a booking mistake. So we're waiting. We're at Harloff's house. The car's here. We all walk down. It's a party bus. It's not a limo. It's not a town car. It's a party bus, including lights and music. And we're like, oh, no, there's only 4 of us, sir. And he's like, well, this is what the service sent me. They said you had a large group. And so we get in this thing and we're laughing and we're not taking it seriously because I think we all felt maybe we were starting to take the moment seriously. Again, not that it wasn't fun memories, but we were like, look at us. Look at us. We're rolling up in suits and we're going to Star Wars and we're in this van and we asked the guy eventually to turn the lights off. But then we said, can you turn them back on? And when we got to USC, and I remember Mark had to go pee so bad. He was about ready to jump out of the van. And I brought a big thing of like a valuable thing of whiskey that we took 2 sips of in our little shot glasses, and we had to leave on the bus. That bus driver got one of the best tips. He got like $100 bottle of whiskey, and he deserved it. We got there, the party bus. No one could hear the music, but maybe you could see the lights inside. We had a red carpet pass. We were supposed to walk the red carpet. We did not get to do it because everyone on staff saw the party bus and was like, who the hell are these people? And we got held up and were not, for a second, not allowed to attend the event that we had passes to. So there's your access. There's your moment where you think you're so cool. We were almost shunned because of what we showed up in, which I don't know, could be another debate. And that's part of now the memory. A lot of my memory isn't this, look at that celebrity, look at this, look at me on the red carpet. It's us going, are we going to get to go here? Because we're in a party bus.
I picture Praetorian guards, bringing their staffs together and blocking access to the party bus.
Yeah, so that was the start of my night. It was a reminder that it's all fun and it's all part of the job, but it's also, you look for those things and there's a lot of memories. And like I said, I have a weird relationship with some of those memories because a lot of them, quite frankly, were used against not just me, but just us, a general us of people who have that access. And I understand access and privilege is something that's a bigger conversation, but for that, man, it's just one of my memories. That party bus, us with our heads in our hands going, well, this is what we got and we got to roll. So that's my weird, humbling memory.
So what I'm trying to remember how the story ends. Did you just like jump out of the limo action star like and roll?
So
how did you get in?
The security team, again, I'm a former security director. I get it. Sometimes I don't know. We couldn't get into the lane to turn into the, like where they're dropping off, people for the red carpet. We had to fight around it. We had kept telling that we kept showing the bus driver our then we kept showing people, and I'm never one that's going to yell at the working folks doing event security or parking. That's not me. But we're just like, we were kind of like, please. And then Ellis is like, I've got to go to the bathroom, please. And you don't just walk in, right? You got to go get your passes. And I'm there with what's the young now he's not young, the kid from Stranger Things with the speech impediment. I forget Galen.
I don't remember his human Dustin on Stranger Things. I don't remember his human name. I apologize.
We're in line with him and his mother, and they were having trouble getting in too. It was a weird experience. But yeah, and then once you get it, so we finally had to like do the whole like, hey, we belong here thing. which is hard to convince somebody whose job is, hey, someone who's ranked higher than me is going to yell at me and demean me if I let you in, right? That's what hangs over a lot of security people. And we got in, but we did not get to walk the full red carpet, which is fine and hilarious because it doesn't matter. We got so many other wonderful experiences. But yeah, that's and it took a long time. And poor Ellis, luckily, he was able to go to the bathroom.
The Last Jedi and just vibe of this is not going to go the way you think.
Exactly.
Permeates experiences.
You've never seen four faces just go from smiles to a forlorn, distant look when we walked down those stairs and saw a party bus.
I understand the concern about a party bus. Like, imagine if it was some bachelor or bachelorette party.
Yeah. Like we took a wrong turn and we're going to see a Star Wars and it's just a bunch of drunk people on a bus. But anyways, we got it. So that's the end of my honorable mentions there. We are now going to our number one Last Jedi memory here, and the supersized edition of Star Wars Ranked. I thought we might work through these quick, but we have a lot of good memories of Last Jedi
to talk about.
Yeah, and our number ones, I'll say this, are relatively similar, and we will go into it. And I think it would be hard not to think about Last Jedi, think about memories, good, positive, and otherwise, without thinking about Luke Skywalker and the death of the hero of heroes. So that's my number one memory, not really knowing what to think about Luke's death at first. And this trailed not just the first view, and this trailed me around a little bit for the first few viewings. This was, and again, not about predictions, but just about what did I just see. And we'll always say, we'll preface, for some people, this didn't work then, and it still doesn't work now. There's different ways. I don't really, hashtag not my Luke people, that's a different conversation. But those who are just like, look, I have one friend looks at me and goes, man, that just hurt me. Mm-hmm. No, not the movie's bad. It just hurt me. That was my hero. Totally get all those things. But the point is, I wasn't someone who popped out of that first screening and was like, woohoo, Luke's dead. I didn't. It took a bit. And there was a day's look. And this is where I will, the first person I talked to after the screening was Rian Johnson. We were both being shuttled down. Everyone was being shuttled down to the banquet area. And I just look at him and he's dazed because he just made a Star Wars film. I'm dazed because he just killed Luke. And I just go, hey, thank you. He goes, hey, you're welcome. And we just keep walking. And then I met up with Mark Ellis and Darina was there. Even Nathan Hamill, who knew was there. No one was like, woo. Everyone was like, And at the end of the day, I think that is good. I think whether or not you like the decision to kill Luke or Luke passes away, again, I think it's more of a transition to the next phase of his life, and there's big themes and lessons behind that. I'm okay that Star Wars made you stop and think for a second. And a lot of us you're grabbing finger foods, you're getting free drinks at this bar, leaving cash tips, hopefully if you're a nice person. And none of us, that's all we could think about. And none of us had the answer. And I think we have a society, and this goes a little bit to the prediction culture. This goes to a little bit of what was on your scoreboard, and we got to go do our review real fast. We got to run to our live stream to do a reaction. You don't process a lot of it. And I think this movie is asking you to stop and process your life as a fan. Star Wars, what it meant to you. You're talking wonderful stuff, Joseph, of what this film does. It challenges it. It's a test. It's a scientific test of Star Wars. And the answer is, yeah. It meant something. It means something, and it brings great hope to many lives. And I think the thing that turned for me that I've talked about, I've written about, is I kept running through like, all right, the idea of Luke dying at some point in the story, 7, 8, or 9, doesn't. I probably assumed that was going to happen. Just seems that's the Star Wars of it all. But I kept thinking, like, how would I want him to go? Blade held high, igniting the green and dying on top of an X-Wing fighting a Star Destroyer? Or, cut in two by Kylo on Crate? Like how I couldn't think of any other way that seemed more just perfect than what Luke did, the choice he made, what it meant for him as a Jedi, what it meant for him as a character, as a person, and the peace and purpose behind it. That line from the movie really resonates with me. And at the end of the day, I came to a conclusion that it meant something to me. But the important thing for me is I didn't quite know, and no one around me really, truly knew. And it doesn't mean that your opinion can't change. I didn't like it becomes I liked it, or I loved it becomes you know what? Now I think about it, that's fine. That's a journey I think we all should have. But as long as I just want you to take the journey, and as you're stuffing finger foods in your mouth at a party, at a screening, your arc light getting a drink, just don't be afraid to process it and process Star Wars and process the art and process what you're taking in. I think that's sometimes the point. And Last Jedi really wanted us to do that. And that moment will last with me forever. It changed the way I looked at these things. So that was me on the first night. But we go to your number one, Joseph. We can transition here. You can add on to mine and add to your own story because the feeling continued.
Yeah. My number one is, I'll give the title first because I've been doing a poor job of that on this episode of Star Wars Ranked. But my number one is, I believe it was Friday night after having seen it twice. My wonderful wife, Sarah, making Luke Skywalker cocktails to just sit with the movie, to honor it, and to process Luke's journey into the Force. I had a journey with the first viewing of The Last Jedi. I wasn't obsessed with like specific predictions. I wasn't in there with like I need Rey to be a Kenobi. I need Snoke to be Ezra Bridger. I wasn't going in with any of those kind of on the nose things. But particularly on the first viewing, some of the comedy felt a little broad. I think that was their kind of reaction of the first viewing, and has long since settled down. If you're interested in those, I have a old Star Wars counseling episode about the comedy of Last Jedi that you can search for. But I was a little like, okay, wow, the tone is a little different than I was expecting. And then I don't remember, I wasn't upset by Luke tossing the blade. I thought, oh, interesting choice. I wasn't upset by, oh, wow, Rey thinks this one answer of who the parents are will define her. But the answer is it's just her. She's going to define herself. I like that. I was utterly shocked by Snoke, shocked and thrilled by Snoke being cut in half. So while I was enjoying those moments, I was also like fighting to not already be on internet shows debating them. Right. Kind of what I was talking about with that whole journey of the Speculate Responsibly of, I was trying to stay connected to the film and not to the discussion of the film, and I've gone on to have those moments in other things, Star Wars and Marvel, of like, ooh, I think that's interesting. I'm not sure if I like it or not. I'll think about it, but man, I know X, Y, and Z are going to be pissed. That's going to be a thing, and I really fight not to be in that mode. There's going to be years and years to have those discussions. Yeah. So I really struggle to be like, I want to stay connected to the story and my reception of it. So, I mean, basically like the film was very successfully for me, a roller coaster, of those kinds of thoughts and feelings and expectations. And we've talked before, like, yeah, I believe that Finn could die. I believe that he could sacrifice himself when he was running down, that cannon. Yeah. So the film had been this kind of roller coaster ride. And one of the things I wanted more than anything is I wanted Luke to be powerful. I wanted to have a sort of payoff of, he is, one of the most powerful Jedi naturally. And now he has this challenge of, what do I do with that power? What has he been doing all these years? What is he doing on this island? I want it to be about him choosing how to use his power, but I want to see that he has massive power. Like, I don't need him to pull a Star Destroyer from the sky. That'd be cool. But I want a sense that he's powerful, right? So we get to Luke on Crate in that first viewing. Everything that's been played with has been like, when Leia sits down, it's like the hope has finally gone out. It's like, this film surprised me a lot, but Luke's got to walk through the door. He's got to, right? And he does, right? And the beautiful heroic shots where he's staring down the whole First Order, and then the barrage of fire, and I'm still thinking about like, okay, well he's got some way to get past that, and like the thrill and the cheer when he's still there and does the shoulder brush, which I loved from the first time, and you build all the way to when Kylo is running at him with the blade. And I'm thinking, not like this. Just like Luke had said to Kylo, this crude, violent. And when the dime drops and you see that Luke Skywalker has been what I personally didn't bet on, but hoped for, of truly powerful, and not just powerful, but taking responsibility for that power and saying, if I have this power and it can help people, I have to use it. But I don't want to inspire more violence. I don't want to be a part of this cycle of violence. I don't want to raise a blade to my nephew, even though he's done all these horrible things. Except I need to be a symbol. But I have to do all of these things in a way that makes sense. He says to Yoda, I can't be what she needs me to be, right? Mm-hmm. And I think he sits with it and he thinks, oh, but I can be what people need me to be, but I need to do it my way. And I have the power to do that, the literal force power, and the power of creativity and intelligence and willingness to turn the page and go on to a new adventure. And I was so thrilled by Luke's absolute triumph of creativity and pacifism, and sort of taking the first steps of healing the wound of almost using violence against Kylo by showing him he's not going to do that again, and that's a possibility. I was so moved by that, and it felt so perfect for Luke Skywalker that's like the main thing I walked out of the film with. I was like, I will talk about all the speculation and the who is Rey and all that, and all the amazing Holdo maneuver and the funny porgs. Like, great, great. But this was like a triumph for Luke Skywalker. This is a triumph for the heart of Star Wars, for the heart of what it means to be a Jedi. Like, that's what I was most filled with. And I was sad that, when he first crawled up, I was like, and he made it. Yeah. And then he gets that look on his face that's, it's underlined with the line peace and purpose, but it's all there in Mark Hamill's phenomenal performance, right? Of, I'm not upset about this. I've always stared at the horizon. Now I get to go. Not only am I staring into that next horizon, I'm going to fade away and be part of the horizon. I'm going to see, I sat there on Tatooine wondering what's out there for me. I'm beginning a new adventure to see what this is like, to be a part of the Force, to be a part of everything. So I was sad that Luke, quote unquote, died. But I was almost more sad for me because it was just like, but I wanted just more literal screen time. Yeah. Right? It was like that kind of sadness of just like, wow, that means his number of minutes on screen in the next film have probably diminished.
Yeah.
But I wasn't sad for the character. It was a triumph. So it was this complex mix of emotions. And this is a long journey to get to what my actual number one is, right? I saw the film. I talked about it with my wife. I think you and I probably exchanged some texts. Went and saw it again Friday afternoon. And then, my wife and I were going to maybe do something else, see something else, watch something else, whatever it was. And we're just like, we just don't want to leave this mood. We just want to process this and think about this. I think it was that night I actually opened the Luke Skywalker action figure that I talked about.
Yeah.
And my wife was in this kick of wanting to design cocktails. And she's like, I think I can make a Twin Suns cocktail. I think I can make it taste good. And I think I can make it that orange-red sunset color. And she did. And the cocktails were great. And she made 2 of them. And I opened my Luke Skywalker action figure and took pictures of him, with the Twin Suns cocktails. And again, it was about what action figures, dumb things like themed cocktails, like what they can mean. They can be a part of the processing experience. This is a character that I grew up with. I grew up wanting to be him, right?
Yeah.
And now here he is, an older man and taking this final journey. And it was powerful because, hey, I need these life lessons now that I'm, getting to middle age. All these things that aren't just a space movie, that relate to my life, so many other people's lives, how we want to handle the challenges of life. And all of that was there in the film. And the processing I needed was to kind of make that physical, make it real, take a picture of it, so I can handle it, Yeah. And that's what that experience was, of this bittersweet cocktail action figure photo op.
Yeah.
Was what I needed to process all those emotions and then head into discussing it, debating it, analyzing it with the rest of the world. But first, I needed to process it for myself, and that's my number one Last Jedi memory.
And a great way to end our discussion here on our Last Jedi memories. It hangs over the film in all the great ways and all the challenging ways. It is there. It's there for you to look at and process. And, I got to be honest with you, I'm jealous. I've never really had a twin son cocktail yet. So maybe Sarah whips him up and send him over some Tupperware or something. I'll have that.
Absolutely. I'll have her dig up the recipe.
Love that. Well said. Not much more I can add on that other than, hey, it's Luke Skywalker, man. He means the world to so many people, and it's a challenge, and we totally get it. But those are our memories of this movie, this wonderful, beautifully shot piece of art that's also funny and weird and awkward and different, and it's a bunch of things. But we celebrate it so much here. We love it. And 5 years. You're talking about this. I'm thinking, I remember about Last Jedi being only like 41. Thinking that was old. And there's so much more. Beautiful, beautiful. Big well said to you, sir. That's a lot of fun. Great idea. Great topic. More on the way. Thank you all for listening. I'm sure you have memories around The Last Jedi, things you saw in the theater, things that you experienced watching, groups that you saw it with, or maybe what lingered in your heart and soul after it. Let us know. Reach out on Twitter. Use the hashtag Star Wars Rank. We are at Force Center Pod. We're also on Hive Social at Force Center. We're on Facebook. We have been doing more content on YouTube, and more is on the way. We announced a new show coming February of this year called Figure Fights. Going to be a lot of fun. It's not the characters fighting. It's the actual toys. Who would win in that fight? We've got some fun stuff cooked up. So if you'd like to, hey, go over to YouTube and give us a subscription. We're trying to reach 7,000. You can get merch, including that Speculate Responsibly t-shirt. It is, tpublic.com/user/Force Center. You can also support us directly at patreon.com/Force Center. Follow me at Ken Napzok. Go to my website kennapzok.com for new things, including podcasts, new things I'm doing, pop rock and radio, upcoming stand-up dates, all there on my website, kennapzok.com. Joseph, where can they follow you and maybe get a cocktail recipe or three?
You can follow me on the social media, Instagram at Joseph Scrimshaw. Twitter is still for now at Joseph Scrimshaw as well. I'm also on Hive and Mastodon, all at Joseph Scrimshaw, and TikTok and YouTube as well. Where I post some not unboxing videos. I've done one about my Luke Skywalker in the package, and who knows, maybe that Luke Skywalker will figure in a Figure Fights episode at some point. But that's it for me, Ken.
All right. That is it. We've done a big one here. Star Wars has been ranked.